Share with you a dramatic little story.
The world's going crazy, but then so am I. Taking time to compose, expose my hell and then organize. Free your mind, everyone got a narrative and a white lie. People painting pictures for the masses just for dollar signs. It's all about the group you're with. I don't care about the life you live. All I see is a small group in your large group that don't see they sin. Nobody look at character.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to have this next guest on. I've been hearing about him from all different people. Every which way I turn, people are like, you need to interview him. You need to interview him. So I'm glad that, finally he has some time after the Tim Pool effect, and so let me introduce you guys to Billy Prempe.
How are you, brother? Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm grateful that you're here, man. The first thing that I want to tackle is I know you're from Paterson. I know you're in your, what do you call it? You're going to be in Congress. Mm-hmm. I have to ask you, best pizza in Paterson?
Taramina's Pizza, Madison Avenue.
Madison
and 6th Avenue, Taramina's Pizza. That's a plug.
Okay. So. I was going to go with Broadway Pizza.
Broadway Pizza, that was my go-to before, but it's a little too greasy for my taste. I'm getting old, so it's not what it used to be, at least for me.
It's very late-night pizza for sure.
Exactly.
Awesome, man. So the first thing that I wanted to kind of jump in with you on is I was watching your interview with Tim Pool, like I said, and one of the things that you touched on that you were super adamant about, passionate about, is police reform.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit of what your policy is on that, or what you're looking to change or what you're not looking to change? So
the thing with police reform is, contrary to popular belief, there's a lot of police officers that actually want police reform for several reasons, and I'm going to get into that. But what really made me focus on the police reform situation is during the time that Eric Gardner passed away, I started noticing that there's all these situations that the media are either over publicizing, but even if that's not the case, there's definitely a problem with police brutality that's going on here. The issue that I've seen, though, is that it's always in the best interest of the police to look as good as possible. That's how they get their funding. That's how they're able to do what they've got to do. The issue is a lot of the police officers that work in these police departments, the issues that they have is the unions also are here to help them and ensure that they're doing good and keep them protected, make sure they're getting their benefits and everything. The problem also on the other end is while they're protecting the police, they're also protecting some of the bad apples as well too. And it's like it's kind of
get lumped together.
Correct, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of very, very good police officers. I know at this point hundreds of police officers now who have actually had the opportunity to speak with, and they're all in very big support because. I tell people, put yourself in the position of a police officer, right? Let's say you're a police officer, you get on the force, you want to do the right thing, you live in your community your entire time, and you want to do the right thing. But then you've got, someone who's a scumbag on the police department, right? Who's out, shaking people down, selling drugs on the side, doing whatever the case may be. It's difficult to kind of get rid of somebody like that. So imagine you want to go out, you want to take care of your community, but at the same time, the unions are protecting people that are not doing the right thing. Right. You also can't go out and throw that guy under the bus or try and make any waves, because not only will it affect your career, but it could also possibly affect your livelihood, your life, and everything alongside that. Because
people start to look at you differently.
Right, and the unions are quite huge, and it's difficult. I know. I'm not going to say his name, but I know an officer who's been in the force for about 25 years in upstate New York who reached out to me and told me about a lot of the problems that he's seen as a police officer. He was in the police department for that long, and he ended up becoming a union representative, where he would go out and he would investigate these kinds of situations. And he was telling me that, it's in the best interest to make sure that these cops don't look like they're not doing their job or look like they're not doing the wrong thing. So most of the time, they'll try and skew and bend information to ensure that they're always looked at in a positive light. He told me a story, for example, where he went to a home where he was actually taking a call where someone broke into this lady's house, stole 2 of her televisions and her cable vision boxes, right? I don't know why they took the cable vision boxes, but okay. Free cable for a week, I guess. But she contacted Cablevision and says, hey, someone stole my boxes, said you gotta go and get a police report. So she goes out, she gets a police report. The police come. They take the information, union representatives there, they take the information, they tell her, come to the police department in a couple of days, come and pick up your police report, right? By the time she goes to pick up her police report, it's not listed as a stolen property report, it's listed as a missing property report, as if the cable box and the television got up and grew legs and walked away. And I said, well, why would they do that? And he says, well, when it looks bad on paper, that there's all these felonies and bad things that are happening here that they can't control, it reflects negatively on the police departments, right?
I see.
So I also want to say something here, though. I'm not bashing the unions altogether, because the unions also do good things for the police officers as well, too. There's times where the police officers they're not getting they're not getting the resources that they need. Even right now, we have a situation where some of these police departments are not able to get access to PPE and get the things needed to deal with this COVID situation. And unions will come out, speak on their behalf, ensure that they're getting their pension, making sure that they're taken care of. So the police departments and the unions have a symbiotic relationship that I feel cannot be separated. Right. The problem that I have, and I mean, the solution that I would like to see, though, is I want to see the unions protecting just the good police officers. If someone's bad, you got to get rid of them. So how do you fix that problem?
Right. Well, that was what I was going to ask. And I guess in a time where everything is really hyperbolic, people are, taking the word reform to mean abolish.
Correct.
And it's very easy to kind of fall down that logic because of what we've seen from the left.
Right.
What is the
and I'm glad you brought that up, because that segues into the next point. You see, when you hear some people talking about defunding the police, they'll always come with this real murky kind of, under the rug kind of explanation. Oh no, defunding doesn't mean we're going to take all their money. We're just going to allocate their resources to wherever it is they're going to do. And I would think
that they need more resources.
Exactly. So I would say, okay, so let's take a look at New York, for example, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't even defund the police in New York, right? Mm-hmm. They cut about 1.7 from their budget and cut off some of the task forces that they had going on in New York. And within a month, crime shot up to about 270%. Yeah. There's people getting shot left, right, and center in New York right now. And the police, they don't have the resources to go out and do these things. And some of these units that were actively in the communities, making sure that the places were safe, they can't even do that job. And even if when they try to do those jobs, they get negative backlash from the public. So you've got, governors like Cuomo and de Blasio as mayor who are, basically taking a knee and bowing down to the political mob that wants to see this kind of life. But seeing what happened in New York, that's not going to fix the situation. So when it comes to addressing solutions and addressing problems, I like to create problems that are amicable for all sides. I like to always stay on the side of justice and what's right. So I don't want to step on the toes of the police. I don't want to step on the toes of the unions. I don't want to step on the toes of the people. So the solution that I came up with is, and when I usually explain this, I tell about this story. There's a gentleman named Jameek Lowry, in Paterson, New Jersey. I'm going to just be very brief with the story. He walked into a police department, He was on a live stream. He was really distressed. He was saying someone was out to get him. He was claiming that the police were out to get him, and he's on this live stream saying that he's fearing for his life. Long story short, he ends up leaving that police department in an ambulance. The following day, they find him with his face swollen shut, and he's dead. Wow. There's no full explanation as to what happened to the guy.
There's no hospital records.
Right. So it's like myself, I like to play devil's advocate for both sides, So it's like, okay, there's people that believe that the police officers did it because of just the way that it looks, From optics, this is the way it is. They did an internal investigation. They found out there was no wrongdoing. Right. Here's the problem with that, though, Let's just say the police are telling the absolute truth, There was no wrongdoing. Let's say they had nothing to do with that and something else happened after the fact. We don't know those facts, They're telling the truth. Now, how can you prove that when they're the ones doing the investigation and people already have, and this is a fact. I've spoken with lots of police officers, some that don't agree with what I'm talking about here, but it's a fact. The optics on the outside, people are not going to believe what you're saying, even if it's true. Right?
You're investigating.
Correct.
Yourself.
Exactly. They're going to look at it like, well, of course they're investigating themselves and not telling the truth. Even if these police officers are genuinely telling the truth, there's no way around that. So what I believe needs to happen to ensure that is there's a disconnect between the community and the police officers. There needs to be a new elected class that needs to happen all across the country.
I love that idea. When I heard you talk about it, it was really interesting. I'll let you unpack it for sure. I just kind of want to, I guess, ask, what would that class look like, and would that change the optics at all? Because it's still ultimately going to be police.
I believe it will, because this new elected class should be a citizen-based thing. We have freeholders, council members, mayors, etc., where people vote for. There should be another person. Let's, for lack of a better word, I haven't come up with a word yet. Because this is an idea that I've got on paper. Let's call him a community justice officer. We elect Angel to be in charge of Garfield, New Jersey, for example, You're the guy that we go to whenever there's a situation going on with the police, From something as small as a police officer stealing 2 pennies from a guy to a police officer, committing, flat out murder or something, You would be the person that they would go to. The community says, hey, listen, we need you to investigate this. The police are going to do their own internal investigation, but you would be doing your own investigation as well. You obviously have your team that helps you and go and do that, Now, there's 2 problems with that, The first problem is, 3 problems. The first problem is, like I told you, the unions is in their best interest to ensure that the police are going to look a specific way, Now, let's say they stonewall you. They prevent you from getting the information that you need, or they're stifling that investigation. At that point, that's when you would reach out to the Department of Justice. That's the second phase of this plan here. Now, the reason why I believe this has to happen is because I wanted to make this as decentralized as possible. I know people say, listen, you can reach out to the local sheriff. I'm like, yes, I get that. I know the sheriff is an elected class, but at that same point, we don't know who the sheriff is also in bed with, right? I believe the sheriff should still have the same authority that they have, but there also has to be a community based on the other side as well.
So the community would vote on each individual. I'm trying to figure out how the community would convey that message to, let's say, the community justice.
Right. So, like, they would have a hotline or an office, a place that they're at where people will come in, and voice their situation, explain their claims. If there's something that they see that's like, if it's something like, oh, the police officer yelled at me, of course it's not that deep, there's nothing we can really do about that. He yelled at you, boo-hoo, walk it off, I
mean, my conservative alarm went off a little bit at first when I heard you talk about it, because I was like, more government, no,
Yes.
But I do understand how it can be perceived as something that's like a necessary step that's kind of in between two things that already exist.
Because, even though it's more government, it's the way I look at it is like, even though it's more government, it's not necessarily more government. If anything, it's more people in government.
Right.
Is what it is. Because this is a more community-based situation where if this person's not even doing their investigations, we got to hold them accountable. Right. You're not doing what's best for us. So these community officers, they investigate, they get the information that they need. If they're stonewalled, or even worse, they're corrupted. Right? We don't know if the sheriff's could be corrupted. We don't know if the person could be corrupted, right? Money talks. Like I said, these unions have a lot of money, right? If that's the case, fine, right? The second phase is the Department of Justice. I believe a national police department needs to be created under the Department of Justice. And like I said, I know the FBI does these kinds of things where they investigate municipal and state police departments, but that's typically when it's a very high-profile situation. George Floyd being a good example. George Floyd passed away, FBI got involved, when it became national, and the whole country started burning down and stuff, right? So now, that's not that often, unless you're like, Al Capone and you're selling drugs or something, or something big, that's not happening.
Resources to make it happen on
Correct. Which is why I believe this is something that needs to be handled within the community, while the police are also doing their own investigation. That second check and balance would be from the Department of Justice, right? These justice officers, what their job is to investigate the police. Because if the police police us, who polices the police? We don't have anything like that in place. Yes, we have the sheriffs, but it's the same thing that I told you. It's like, who knows what's going to happen on there? So it has to be someone that's totally disconnected from everything. The federal government has no allegiance to the state police. They have no allegiance to the municipal police at all. Their job is to find out if you're screwing up. If you're screwing up and we find you, they can investigate, prosecute, and subpoena witnesses, whatever the case may be, to get to the bottom of this and put these officers to justice. They face prison time depending on how bad of a crime that they've committed.
Right. Have you talked about this idea to any police officers? How
I have.
They taking it?
A lot of them really like the idea because it's like the situation I was telling you before. It's like they said it's a little bit heavy because it's like now you've got somebody looking over you. And I said, well, listen, there's three choices here, right? If you're a scumbag cop, right, you're either going to stop doing what you're doing and do the right thing, you're going to quit the force, or you're going to get caught. Right? Those are the only three options. Right? So if you're not a scumbag cop, what do you have to worry about? Right? Now, if your chief is a scumbag and your chief is protecting all these people, if they investigate one of these people and they find out this police officer's been stonewalling and trying to protect this person, he's going down as well. It's not going to be worth it. So now the unions are like, well, I have to protect the police. The only way that we can maintain our strength is, by getting funding from the police and all that, right? So now the unions are in a position where it's in their best interest to keep the best officers and get rid of the worst officers. Because if they don't, the police department falls apart, the union falls apart, everybody loses.
So you start incentivizing good police work.
Correct. So now it's like, if you're a union member and it's like, listen, if I protect this guy and he's not doing it right, it's not gonna look good on the force, right? It's not gonna look good on the union. We're gonna lose our funding. They're gonna get rid of us, and they want to exist just as much as we do. They're human beings, you know what I mean? I understand they've got their own personal things, right? So,
alongside of that, I do think that it would be equally as important to give longer training for police officers as well.
Which brings me to my next phase, right? So I believe that there should be an incentive for a lot of things, right? The police officers, they go through, and this is not every police department. Some police departments have different protocols for how they go about training. So that's something that I'm still working out. I know the laws here in New Jersey are different from the laws in Nebraska and what they can and cannot do. So I understand that. And that's something that we still got to work. We still got to work along. At the end of the day, this is an idea to try and make things better, right?
Absolutely.
As a doctor, or as a dentist, hairstylist, any of these kind of professions, you have to go out and renew your license every year or every period, however long it is, right? You have to keep that fresh so you can continue to practice in your profession. Now, being a police officer, it's a very complicated job. You know, you're dealing with criminals, mental health situations. You have to de-escalate, hostage, all kinds of things, right? You have to be sharp in all those kinds of things. Someone pulls out a weapon, let's say a bat, and your first thing is to go to the gun rather than relying on what you've known or what you've been trained on. There's an incentive. I believe in it. You should be incentivized. If you're a police officer and you've gone through the training and you sign up for a jiu-jitsu class, for example, right, for the next 6 months, you should be incentivized, or the police department should pay for that. Of course, it's going to require more funding, but it should be an incentive. It's like, listen, you're going above and beyond the education we're giving you, and you're learning even more so that you can become a better police officer. Because when you're a better police officer, you're going through all these programs, you're constantly renewing your information, you're constantly freshening up on the Constitution, de-escalation, firearms training, CPR, all these other things. And I know some of these things they do yearly, but not everything, right? If you're doing these things and you're also going above and beyond, as a police officer, I would love to be compensated for that. I don't see why not. It's only going to make me a better person. It's only going to make the force look better. I think
this is the best argument that I've heard in a long time for why we should increase funding for the police.
Absolutely.
And how that will lead to actually better de-escalation,
absolutely,
more safety for the police officers and the people and the civilians. You know, I think that it gets kind of overlooked because we automatically put ourselves in a place where we want to punish bad cops without thinking about the overall, you know, police force.
Correct.
And thinking about how we can improve the overall quality of these people. So I think that's such an interesting platform. That's probably one of your main things that you're running.
That's one of my main things, because it's like, I feel it's the most important thing, because as a child, I remembered being able to talk to the local police officer. We would see Officer Johnson or Officer Brown every other day, right? Hey, Officer Brown, it's cool, right? There was a communication with these police officers. Today, the police have a hard time trusting the people in the community because the people don't trust the police. So then now they're on edge because it's like, well, you know, they don't support us even though we're putting our lives on the line. And at the same time, you see what's going on the media. We don't trust the police because of X, Y, and Z. Right? And that's not good. That's not something that should happen. There has to be that kind of symbiotic relationship where they have a relationship like that with the unions. It should be the same way with the community.
So I want to pull you a little bit in that direction where you're just talking about all this stuff that's been going on with Jacob Lake, is his name?
Oh, who? No, Jameek Lowry.
Jameek Lowry. I'm talking about
the most recent situation. Yes.
Wisconsin. Well, what's been your take on that? I know I saw a little bit of the tape, and to me, there's so much missing. There's so much context missing. It's hard for me to put it together. And now there's riots happening, and now there's people getting shot in Wisconsin. And to me, it feels like it's very hasty and fast paced, and it's not allowing for any of the police force to do their job at all. So what's been your take on this whole thing?
So I watched the video several times, and my opinions have changed as I've watched the video. But here's what
initial take.
Well, my initial take was they overreacted with the way they shot this guy. But at the same time, this guy should not have turned his back on the police officers. Where I stand now, and I've watched it several times, where this brings me back to that point as to why you should be incentivized to go through the appropriate training, right? And there's people saying that this guy had a knife, right? I don't know if he had a knife, right? I can't see that, and I'm not going to speculate on that. But let's just say this person did have a knife, right? If you're a police officer, you've gone through training, you've spent hours learning how to deal with these kinds of situations in specific. When we watch the video, this guy's standing here, he's turning his back on a police officer. First things first, as a civilian, no matter who it is, it could be a gangbanger or a police officer. Someone's got a gun on you, don't be stupid. It's just not worth it, right? Now, you don't turn your back on a police officer, walk and try and get into a car. The first thing that I saw was, you know, when you open that door, you can't see where this guy's hands are. You don't see what he's doing. As a police officer, and to probably anybody who's on the police officer side, they say, like, well, they did the right thing by shooting this guy because we don't know what he was going for. What I say is this. Had that police officer's training would have been better, you could have seen as he walked around that car, there's about a good 3 seconds, right? You've already got your guns trained on this guy. There's 2 of you. You could have tackled this guy. You could have, you know, tased them. There was a lot of room for different things to do. But if you've already got your gun in your hand, and that's the first solution to think of, because I understand they said that this is a violent guy, et cetera, right?
Right. That was what I was going to go for, the context of who he is.
That's what they say, right? But the point that I'm making is he was walking away, right? If this guy was violent and you see that he's walking to the car, there's a high possibility that the weapon is in the car if he didn't pull it out yet. Right? So it's like when police officers are going through these kinds of training, it allows them to, because it's a very split-second decision, don't get me wrong, but when you train, it becomes second nature, right? It just don't even take action, right? I could shoot this guy or I could stop this guy. I have the time to stop this guy. He's not getting that far from his car. They had an opportunity to stop him there. I believe that at that specific moment, that was the opportunity where they could have stopped it. He shouldn't have died. He didn't die. He's paralyzed now, to the best of my knowledge, right? Like, he shouldn't have gotten shot up. They could have stopped him. They could have done all kinds of things, and it got out of hand more than it needed to.
So, and this would be the prime example of where you would want somebody else from the outside to come in and investigate?
Absolutely, because listen, here's the thing, man. No matter how you look at it, I personally believe that both sides could have handled the situation better, right? The police officers, they're looking out for their best interest. They don't want to get hurt, and I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But you had an option, you had a chance to stop that before it even got to that point.
Right.
That's the reason why I can't let them off the hook right there. It's like you had the chance.
Right.
With the appropriate training, you would have been able to stop that. To the gentleman who did that, and to everybody else that's watching, you don't do that. Don't turn your back and walk away from a police officer like that.
Yeah. So I want to kind of change gears a little bit, and I want to bring you into some other areas that I know you're passionate about, pro-life being one of them, the abortion debate. What is it exactly that you stand for in that, and in context of Paterson, actually?
So my views on abortion changed quite a bit. When I was much younger, I used to be very, very liberal, and I just like, do what thou wilt.
Right.
You want to kill your kid, it's on you. I don't care. YOLO, this is life.
Yeah. There's the phrase, if you're young and you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart.
Right.
If you're older and you're not conservative, then you don't have a mind.
Exactly, and I believe that. I firmly believe that because a lot of those ideas make sense when you don't have a full grasp on what's really going on here, right? So to cut all the meat, right? This isn't about this is her right to choose or this is the right to life. It's like, forget about all that. My underlying reasons as to why I'm totally against abortion is because of how the organization was founded and how the organization was created. I'm not certain if you're familiar with it. Yes, sir. Yeah. So it's like when I started to find out about how Margaret Sanger was, would go around and speak at these KKK rallies. She was a very prominent Democrat in the community. Yeah. And she would go to these black churches and convince the pastors that, if the black people are impoverished and they can't take care of their child, just kill your child or have an abortion, Wow. And she's quoted as saying that, the Negro population and the Jews are weeds that need to be permanently eradicated from the face of the earth. Right. So she was a very well-known racist. She was a devout racist, She studied eugenics, which is a study of genealogy and the superiority of certain genes against another race, right? She believed that the white race was a superior race. And a lot of the ideas that Hitler used in his concentration camps to push this Aryan agenda, he would share a lot of these notes with Margaret Sanger. Wow. So when I started to hear all these things, I said, wait a minute. Why on earth are we supporting something like this? Right. And this is an organization that later created Planned Parenthood, which put all these organizations in the inner cities. Right. They say we do other services like mammograms and whatever, and that's not the case. It's like 90% of what you're doing is abortions. This is a fact. Right. And this is all sugar-coated stuff. You can check this out if you ever get the chance. There's a video where a woman actually sat down and called every single Planned Parenthood organization in the United States, and it was about maybe 2 or 6 of them that actually offered other services other than just abortions. Wow. But on the automated system, like, we offer mammograms and blah, 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 blah. But all of them are like, no, we don't offer that here, right? So it's like, to all the people that support the pro-life, support the pro-choice and abortion stuff, like, call them yourselves, all right? Yeah. Call them yourselves, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is all pure abortion.
Yeah, they're playing schematics. It's
right.
Like, some of them have mammograms and stuff. Therefore, we as a business
and it's not exactly. See, that's what they're doing, And in reality, all these organizations, they're all in the inner cities. They're not in the suburbs. They're all in places like Elizabeth, Irvington, Paterson, Camden. They're not in any other places. Like
to a shocking extent.
To a shocking extent,
yeah.
Right? So I'm like, if this is really something that's supposed to be a service that every woman should get, and this is her right, and blah 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 blah, this would be all across the country,
and it would especially be in affluent areas.
Right. Yeah. And then to make matters worse, they know who Margaret Sanger is. Yeah. They know what she stood for.
They recently disavowed her, right?
What happened was like after numerous people in the conservative movement who are pro-life have been calling out and addressing the fact that you guys are handing out the Margaret Sanger Award, and they've been doing this for decades, right? Like you're basically saying like, here, this is for your service to Planned Parenthood. Here's this award of a racist that wanted to kill black people. You are a great person. Right. It's madness. Yeah. And now they finally disavowed that in 2020. Yeah. Right, because of all the situation that's going on now. On top of that, as a taxpayer, me as a Christian, I don't support that. Right. I don't support abortion. Right. And I don't believe anybody should be forced to have any of their money, regardless, to be used on things that they don't believe in. And for the record, I believe taxation is theft. That's just my thing.
100% agree.
So I just had to throw that in there. So it's like, I get it because of the situation we're in right now. Taxes are taxes, right? But if I have a choice in where my money can go to, I don't want to go into killing innocent kids. Right. People will say like, they kill in the military. And it's like, sure, you can make that argument, but it's like there's a specific reason why we have a military. It's like if you really believe that Iran wants to come over for dinner and say kumbaya, you're out of your mind.
There's rules of engagement. Right?
Exactly. That's you know what I mean? So I'm like, listen, it's like, let's be real here. There's terrorists out there. This isn't a joke. All right. Yeah. So that you can't compare that to something like Planned Parenthood.
And I feel like this is an easy I guess, topic to become very emotional about, especially if you're on the pro-life side, because if you are on the pro-life side and you do believe that these are children in the womb,
they are,
which they are. But I mean, if let's say you're coming from a different perspective, why wouldn't people be freaking out about it?
Right.
You know, like that's one thing that I think pro-choice people have to understand is that we literally understand that there's a child in that womb,
yes.
and when you're taking it out, you're literally ending a life. So I think a lot of politics gets hyperbolic and it gets inflated, but this is one of those things where it's like, no, this is the severity of what's going on.
Right.
Millions and millions of children are being killed every year.
And the second thing that really bothers me about that is the agenda that's being pushed by the left, the Democrats, in regards to this abortion thing is
that it's healthcare.
It's healthcare, right? They say that it's healthcare, and to make matters worse, they say like, oh, it's not a baby, it's a fetus, or it's a clump of cells. I'm like, now you're dehumanizing what a human is.
Right.
And I say, listen, you go out and you kick a dog that's pregnant. You know what I mean? That's animal abuse, right? You killed a dog, and now it's a federal crime under Donald Trump, you know, which we can thank him for that.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, you kill a bald eagle, you kill the eggs of a bald eagle, that's animal abuse. You can go to jail. Those are federal crimes.
Right.
But a baby, right? Every single human being that we've ever encountered in our lives started off as a clump of cells, as they say. So you ask them, what is that? Oh, that's a clump of cells. A clump of cells that make what? Oh, it's a fetus. Like, so it's a human being. No, it's not. It's just a fetus. It doesn't have a heart yet. It's not this. It's not that. Like,
it's
you didn't have a heartbeat
yet.
A
clump of cells on Mars is life.
And that's a phenomenal thing.
But a clump of cells in a woman's stomach is not a baby.
And that's the funny thing, because they like to focus on these little tiny nuances, right? And say like, oh yeah, but it's not this. It's like, but you know, you see the Mars rover, and it's like, oh, there's bacteria. Do you believe there's aliens? Do you believe that there's you know, things on Jupiter? It's like,
this is where I think about the postmodern agenda kind of coming into the mainstream, where what we say isn't necessarily reality.
Right.
What we say is whatever we wanted to say. It's our truth. And the left loves to play that game where they start changing definitions of words. By the time you realize what they're doing, it's already too late, and it's changed in Webster's dictionary.
Yeah, that's because right now we don't live in America anymore. We live in upside down, crazy clown world.
Yeah.
That's where we live right now.
Yeah, big time.
You know?
Yeah. So in regards to abortion, what is it that needs to change in Paterson?
What I believe needs to change is, first off, it has to come down to education. Right now in our media and our television, it's very popularized to just be sexy and promiscuous and just do all kinds of things that eventually hurt the soul, you know? Yeah. I know lots of women who've had abortions, lots of women. In fact, I know more women that have had abortions that regret the abortion or feel some kind of internal pain that they don't want to speak about. I don't see the feminists or the left even consoling or even talking with those women. And when these women speak out, you're anti-woman, you're anti-women's rights.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like if you are on the pro-choice side and you have had an abortion and now you're regretting it, just voicing that opinion now contradicts the worldview that this isn't actually a baby.
Exactly. So then when I see stuff like that, I'm like, this right here is not an agenda for the people. To me, this is a demonic thing. It's like you're trying to make what is bad good and what is good bad. Right. You know, and I don't support that kind of stuff. And as you can tell, I'm getting a little bit fired up. But this is something that I'm very serious about, because if we're going to spend that much money on Planned Parenthood, and we're going to give them tax breaks and give them whatever they need to do to continue to run their business, why do we not have organizations or that same kind of money go towards adoptions? Right? It's like, it's harder for an American. I know a few people who've tried to go through the adoption process and they were dragged in the mud, right? Yeah, it's much harder for them to adopt an American citizen than it is to adopt a child from Cambodia. Right. You know, and I'm like, why is that? It's like, we've got tons of homeless children, children that don't have a family that need love and care. And even if we don't have that, it's like, where are the resources to help the pregnant mothers that don't know what to do? Like, I don't know if I want to keep this kid, if I want to kill the child, or what am I going to do when I make it? Like, we don't have a lot of organizations to give these women the resources and actually help them and give them an opportunity to say, listen, you can go to school, you can leave your child with the daycare, we'll pay for this, we'll take care. We don't have anything like that. If we can spend all this money to exterminate life, we can spend money to keep life, preserve life, and make life better.
I think you touched on a great pro-choice argument that they make. It's like, well, if I'm not even going to be able to afford this baby, which is on a statistically like a very small piece but if I'm not even able to support this baby, why would I have it and then force it to live a life of poverty, right? And which highlights the idea that poverty is somehow immoral.
Exactly.
Right? Like somebody that grows up poor is somehow less than.
Exactly. And I'm like, and I say, listen, man, tell that to the women. And I know a lot of women who started off single mothers, you know, poor as can be, roaches in the basement, all kinds of stuff. And they've not only gone on to become very successful, but their children come out to be very successful. You don't know if that child that you're going to kill is going to be the one that ends world hunger or cures cancer or becomes the next president of the United States.
There's so many.
You have no
idea.
idea. You know, and I see it all the time. Like, you know, I've seen a lot of these pro-choice movements. Like, there was a woman I saw a while back who her mother had an abortion, and she survived the abortion. Wow. And she's gone on to accomplish tremendous things. You know what I mean? Her story was really moving to me, and I said, wow, you know, that woman was knocking on heaven's door. This woman almost died, you know, because of this process. And look at what she's doing now with her life. And she's speaking life into women and encouraging women and doing a lot of things for the female community. Wow. And what I say is, like, you know, if this is really about women's rights and we really protect our women, we respect our women, then why are we killing off the next generation of women? You know, because it's not just boys that are dying here. Right. You know what I mean? It's like you're not respecting their life. It's like if we really love our women and really respect our women, we'll encourage our women, we'll strengthen our women, and give them what they need to ensure that they can stay in that position of power.
Absolutely. I'm so on board with you. So I want to focus out the lens a little bit, talk about what you're doing in Paterson, and talk about some things from a cultural level too. In my opinion, after just meeting some people that are running for Senate, running for all these different positions as Republicans, do you feel like there is a branding issue in the Republican Party? Like we haven't tapped into the culture the way Democrats have for nearly, maybe 50, 60 years at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that wholeheartedly. And here's the problem, and I tell this to a lot of people. When I was looking at the numbers in Passaic County, for example, and let's just use Passaic. That's Paterson, Passaic, Clifton, you know, Hawthorne, right? When you look at Passaic County, what I've noticed is that a lot of the people that are in the inner city, they don't like Republicans primarily because of what they've been told on television, right? Absolutely. What makes me different, and I've watched a lot of these races against Bill Pascrell, right? I've watched a lot of these races, and when these candidates go out and they run on a platform, right, a lot of them just look like, you know, the suit and tie guy. I'm no suit and tie guy, right? I'm a regular guy from Paterson, New Jersey, 30 years old, first generation American, United States Air Force veteran. Right. I'm not the average. I got dreadlocks, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? I'm not the average politician at all.
You're going to stand out on a poster for sure.
Right, exactly. I'm like, what, that guy's a Republican? So when I go out into the inner city, for example, when I speak with the people, I don't have any problems with the minority community. The Hispanics don't give me a problem. The blacks don't give me a problem. It's usually these white liberals on the other side of town that are like from, you know, Piscataway or like someplace nowhere near the hood. Has no idea what's going on.
West Paterson.
Right. They'll call me, oh, you're Uncle Tom, you're this or that, and they'll try and say things to chop me down. But
isn't that the irony of it?
That's the irony, completely. You know,
being offended on behalf of somebody else.
Right. And it's like they'll come and they'll be offended on my behalf. But when I speak with the people in the inner cities, for example, they don't like Donald Trump. This is a fact. They don't like Donald Trump. Very much. However, they like what Donald Trump is doing. Right. When I came back from the military in 2011, it was very difficult to find work. I don't know how your situation was, but it was a while before I found some work. A lot of my friends that I knew didn't have any work. It was hard for them to find work. I had out of like maybe 30 friends that I routinely kept in close contact with, about 3 or 4 of them had a job. Wow. Everyone else is unemployed. They're on unemployment, or they had no jobs, or they probably went out and sold weed or something to try and like make ends meet. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what it was. A lot of the people today living under Donald Trump, even though they don't like the guy, they'll admit it's easier to find a job now. It's better to find a job now. I don't like the guy, but he's done prison reform. You know, my cousin just came home, you know, but still, I don't like the guy. Yeah.
But I like that stimulus check.
Right, yeah, but I got that check, you know what I mean? So it's like, and that's totally fine with me. Right. So when they see a guy like me, and they hear what I'm talking about, you talk to the average African American, or even the Hispanic community especially, they're very conservative. Yes. Like internally, right? Absolutely. They may vote in a specific way, but internally, they believe in family, they believe in God, they believe in lower taxes. Nobody likes taxes.
That's one of my big, I guess, messages that I'm trying to portray with all of this is the fact that minority groups in America, specifically around here, are very much conservative when it comes to the way they conduct their lives. What they think about politics is different. But to me, it's funny how a younger first-generation American Hispanic guy will treat, you know, he'll be pro-choice out in the street, and he'll have all these liberal ideas. But when it comes to his personal life, he wants a wife, he wants to get married, he wants kids,
they want to settle down, they want the picket fence, they want all that. They want everybody wants the American dream, and the American dream is it's frankly it's a conservative dream. You know, while on the Democrat side, the liberal side, you know, we need, you know, more affordable housing, we need more Section 8, we need all the things that we can control you with the government, right? But they're not gonna tell you we need more financial literacy in school, we need to teach children about credit, we need to teach children about investing in real estate and how to actually revitalize their neighborhood. They're not telling you that.
That brings me to a perfect point. The school choice is a big thing that I think could help Paterson, and I think that I've seen it work kind of. I have a few close friends that growing up, they were really bad kids, man, like really bad. And they ended up going to these charter schools in Paterson, and they ended up going to the military. One of them is a professional, changed their lives.
Yeah, and the reason why that is because a lot of these schools, they offer something than just an education.
Right.
See, when I've spoken with some of the teachers, a lot of them are very anti school choice, right? And I always wondered, I'm like, well, why is that? It's like, oh, well, they're giving, that's going to take away students from the, and when I say teachers, I'm talking primarily the teachers unions. I shouldn't even say teachers. Let me backtrack on that. I should say teachers unions, because they move as a unit. You know what I mean? And a lot of them are kind of like coaches, like, hey, you want your job, then you're going to that Democrat function. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now it's like, you as a teacher, you're a tenured teacher. The union's got your back. This is a public school. You're always going to have a job. Mm-hmm. Now we start having all of our kids moving out of the district and going somewhere else to these charter schools. Now we're losing money, so they don't even want that. Right? But now there's two things that I noticed, right? With charter schools and private schools, they're offering something that's extracurricular, right? A lot of these public schools don't have the infrastructure for something that's extracurriter. Right. So like I said, it's like I like to come up with solutions that are practical, right? So the practical solution for me is this. We may not have a metal shop place, right? When I went to high school in Kennedy, in Paterson, right, they had metal shop, woodworking, auto, all kinds of stuff, right? You can learn these different trades to do in your life. Now, we don't have an infrastructure for something like that in, let's say, Eastside High School, right? But what we do have are business owners, right? We've got carpenters, plumbers, electricians, financial experts, CPAs, all these kinds of people, right? What if we can make a deal with these business owners, right? We give this business, let's say $8,000 tax break every single year, or whatever the case may be, we'll work it out later. We give them some kind of incentive to come and teach, or have the students come to their place of work and teach them a skill twice a month for the entire duration of their time while they're in school, right? So that's 2 times a month for 4 years that you're learning this, right? By the time you come out, you should have a very good grasp on what you're doing here, and at least be able to come in as an apprentice.
Right.
You can either work for a company, or you and your homies can come together and start your own thing, or you can say, you know what, I don't want to do any of this stuff, I want to go to college, but in the back of my mind, I still have that skill if it all fails.
At the very least, it piqued your interest in something.
So now, we don't have to step on the toes of the public schools. You guys want to keep your job, fine. I just want to offer some programs here, all right? Give the children a choice. You want to work, you want to do your thing, that's okay, fine. But give the children a choice. Give the parents a choice, right? And another thing that's good about school choice is, and this is something that a real estate developer brought to my attention, and it's true. When you have school choice programs, right? A place like Paterson, for example, where the school district is slowly getting better, right? But imagine we've got an immaculate school system, right? And someone from outside of town, I want my kid to go to that school, right? The economy's getting better over there. The neighborhood's getting safer. In fact, let me just move over here, right? Now these people are investing in the neighborhood. They're spending their money in the neighborhood. They're paying their taxes there. They're paying their home, whatever. You're increasing the value of that community because you're offering a good school education. People don't want to raise their children in a place where it's violent and guns are flying. 3 days ago now at this point, someone drove down my block, shot the whole place up with a MAC-10.
I saw that on your Instagram.
2 people got shot because of this. You know what I'm saying? No parent wants to raise their child in a neighborhood like that, right? Yeah. Which brings me back to the first point. We need to protect our police. We need to ensure that our police are protecting us, right? We want to increase the value in our neighborhood, but we got to give the parents a better opportunity for their children, give them a better education, right? So let's improve our school system.
I think that's a common thing that I guess people who are more liberal tend to agree with us on, but it's almost like we're talking in a circular motion.
It's
like we need to fix the police so that we can fix the community, so that we can fix the schools, so that we can fix the police, so that we can...
Right.
And there's this circular thing that happens, but I think what everybody wants to argue about is where to start.
Right.
I do think that all of it can be done simultaneously with the right leadership.
And I believe it can too, because what I'm asking for is I'm not asking for the stars and the moon. I'm not asking for federal, whatever the case, right?
Right.
What I'm asking for is just some cohesiveness, right? I need it to be practical. I don't want to step on the teachers' unions. I don't even want the public schools to close, right? I want to improve the education so that you guys get more students.
Right.
The only way we're going to do that is by improving programs.
Right.
I can assure you, you talk to a lot of the teachers in Paterson. You talk to a lot of the parents in Paterson. They say, hey, listen, man, if they were teaching your children about how to balance their books and manage their budget and utilize their credit so that they can invest and start businesses, is that something you'd be open to? They're going to say unanimously, absolutely. Yeah, I'm totally down for that. No one's going to turn their back on something like that.
Right. I think that's so important. And I think a large part of it, like we were talking about earlier, has to do with the way that the message is being brought across. And I think you're great for a city like Paterson, because we've seen, the people that are in leadership there over and over again promise things and not deliver,
Right.
and just or just not be involved at all. You know, it's like, where are they?
Right, and the reason why I say that is, and it's like, people know this, man. Like in politics, you'll see, for example, Bernie Sanders. People come, we're gonna get free college, free high school, free whatever the case, right?
Right.
No idea how to pay for it. It's not practical, right? It needs to be something practical that can actually work. It's only going to get better with time.
Like AOC says, you should just do it.
Right.
You should just find the money.
I mean, hey, yeah, and I'm like, find it where? Like, these people are just going to get on jets and disappear. It's not practical.
Yeah, it's not.
You know?
Wow. I love that, man. I don't want to keep it too long. I want to start wrapping up a little bit. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing, anything that you have coming up, where people can follow you, all that kind of stuff? Yeah,
so everybody that's looking at me, you can check me out at billy2020nj.com. You can learn more about the policies there. On the issues page, I've got all my issues lined out, so you can look into it for yourself. I've also got tons of videos that I've done with media. In fact, this will probably be on the website as well, too, as soon as this is ready. You know, where you can hear my stance on other opinions, speaking with other people. You know, my message is, as to the best of my knowledge, has been consistent across the board. You can find me on social media. On Instagram, my name is Some Guy Named Bill. On Parler, it's also Some Guy Named Bill. And Facebook, my Facebook page, and my Twitter is also at Billy Prempe. This Friday, August 28th, I'm having a fundraiser here at Lyndhurst, New Jersey. You're more than welcome to come by if you'd like to come by. Sure. It's at Mickey's Bar and Grill. We're going to have some people over there. We're all going to have a nice grand old time, sit down and, you know, have a couple of LOLs.
I follow Mickey's on Instagram.
There you go. So there you go. You should just drop on by, man. It'll be great. Cool.
Man, thank you so much for your time, man. I love what you're doing. I love your message. I love what you stand for. Man of God, of course. So, you know, anything that you need from me, I'm here to back you. So
thank you,
thanks
brother.
a lot, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Share with you a dramatic little story.
The world's going crazy, but then so am I. Taking time to compose, expose my hell and then organize. Free your mind, everyone got a narrative and a white lie. People painting pictures for the masses just for dollar signs. It's all about the group you're with. I don't care about the life you live. All I see is a small group in your large group that don't see their sin. Nobody look at character, everybody look at color skin. Nobody look at numbers or facts.